Hello, folks. Happy St. Patrick's Day to my Irish brethren around the world, whether they're here in North America, in the British Isles, Ireland, or in the islands down below in Australia, New Zealand, or even in South Africa, wherever the Irish find themselves today. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, a little bit of news here. I drafted a letter which I sent to the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, yesterday. And I'm going to read that letter to you over some concerns that I have regarding the refugee program. Now, it's become apparent to me the concerns because of my involvement in reporting and then being an advocate for those who have arrived here under the refugee program who are South Africans. But this is clearly a program and a problem that pre-exists the South Africans, and I fear that people have been getting over on the taxpayers for many, many years. So the following is the letter that I wrote to these folks. To Acting Director Angie Salazar, Office of Refugee Resettlement, the Mary E. Switzer Memorial Building, Washington, D.C., March 16, 2026. Gentlemen, I'm writing over a grave concern about an abject lack of oversight into refugee assistance agencies across the United States on the part of the agencies themselves and by the federal government. This has led to what appears to be widespread fraud and neglect of refugees who arrive in America, which has become known to me because of my objective coverage of the refugee program for South Africans suffering from unjust racial persecution. The lack of oversight and neglect has resulted in a negative perception fostered by dishonest politicians and the media within South Africa and here in America, causing grievous harm to our national reputation. The following sentences in bold. I am frustrated by the difficulty in reporting potential fraud to the federal government and am seeking an audience with Acting Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement, Angie Salazar. I've devoted thousands of hours to protecting our national interest over the past 14 months regarding the program for South Africans, and have consistently and accurately conveyed what the program is and what it is not. Additionally, I've traveled at my own expense to Alabama, Texas, Idaho, New York, and Pennsylvania, where I've met in person with well over 100 South African refugees. Beyond that, I've been in contact with over 1,100 of the 3,490 South Africans who've arrived since May 12, 2025. I've also interviewed nearly 40 South African families on live broadcast. Few others have the insight that I have regarding the program and its outcomes. During my trip to Rochester, New York in January, I uncovered serious neglect of refugees by Church World Service, an organization that habitually publishes anti-U.S. government rhetoric on its website despite getting $189 million in funding in fiscal year 2024 from taxpayers. Whether one approves of the arrival of refugees or not, those whom we have permitted to enter are entitled to specific resources under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1980 and federal policies. I've had to personally intervene in clear cases of negligence and mistreatment with multiple refugee agencies across the United States since South Africans began arriving, including Austin, Texas, Modesto, California, Dearborn, Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, Omaha, Nebraska, Rochester, New York, and in Richmond, Virginia. None of these instances should have required the intervention of private American citizens, but all were necessary. Additionally, I've organized accommodation and food for dozens of stranded South Africans who were left with canceled tickets at the last moment owing to mismanagement of the program on the other end. I'm aware the director has met with others, some of whom have vested interest in the program. I have no vested interest in this, save our national reputation. I've not formed any non-governmental organization, nor do I charge any fees for my services. I served 36 and a half years in the U.S. Army as an intelligence officer and a foreign area officer for sub-Saharan Africa. Was a diplomat at 8 embassies in Africa. I'm a published author in academic circles and popular press. I've taught undergraduates and graduate students at Iowa State University and the U.S. Army War College, and I'm well known across South Africa. I now work as a consultant, radio broadcaster, and intelligence analyst. I thank you in advance for your time and consideration. Now that's a letter that I sent to the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and hopefully it reaches the director, and hopefully I can get an audience with that director. Short of that, I'm becoming incredibly frustrated by what's happening with the U.S. government and with these agencies. And it's only come to light, in my view, because the South Africans have arrived here. Whether they're Afrikaners or English-speaking South Africans or others, they all speak English well enough to understand that something is wrong and to raise the flag, which is what some of them have done. And we've become aware of the mistreatment and the neglect that many have received. I've also met with other refugees, like my trip to Rochester from Afghanistan and Nepal, and I've seen the appalling conditions and treatment that they received. This needs to end. If we're going to allow refugees into our country, then we're going to have to uphold the standards that we place. Now, having said this, These are a small minority of cases. Only a handful of cases. Out of the 3,490, maybe 100 people have suffered these circumstances. Maybe. That's an estimate on my part, not scientific data, based on my interaction with South Africans. But one is too many. These people are coming from around the world, in this case South Africa, fleeing persecution or conflict, in this case persecution. They deserve a fair chance to start, not agents who ignore them and delay their appointments for Social Security numbers and employment authorization documents and then use all the resources up and tell them they're going to be kicked out in the street because they have no money. People from other parts of the world may not understand American culture. It's alien to them and the English language. But South Africans understand to a degree American culture and understand English language. And so we're aware of this problem. And I urge the U.S. government to reach out to me. After a year of me carrying the water for our nation on this program, it's time for the U.S. government to engage with me for the sake of our nation, our national reputation. I thank you for your time. God bless.